The cash ban legislation has been defeated. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and celebrate, because it looks like the cash transaction ban that was going to make it illegal to spend $10,000 with a business in cash is now, well, cast aside, forgotten, and abandoned by the politicians that were so eager to take away your freedoms. Funny that, isn't it? Let's have a look at this article, and then I want to talk about 5 lessons that I've learned from this that I think, well, from the cash ban that I think is some good takeaways for us. So a controversial plan to ban, and this is from the Australian by the way, to ban businesses from making or receiving cash payments of more than $10,000 have been quietly shelved by the Morrison government after pressure from influential industry groups and a backlash from coalition MPs who warned it took away people's freedom. And those coalition MPs, I guarantee you, received a tremendous amount of, well, feedback from members of the public, such as yourself. Many people were talking about it. Martin North, John Adams, Robbie Berwick from the Citizens Party. Lots of people had jumped in to raise awareness about it. Because frankly, when you look at some of the justifications for this cash ban, it's the stupidest thing in the world. And we'll look at that. It's one of the lessons. So at least that's a good takeaway. It's a good takeaway. This activism and this engagement by the public has sent a clear message to our political leaders. Now, if only it would happen a little bit more often. Government sources confirmed there would be no attempt to push the restrictions on the use of cash bill through federal parliament in the final sitting fortnight of the year, and conceded there was no enthusiasm to move ahead with it. While they insisted it had not been completely dropped yet, they would not be surprised if it ended up that way. Introduced to federal parliament in September last year and stuck in the Senate since late November, the bill established a cash payment limit of $10,000. From January 1 this year, it was meant to introduce fines of up to $25,000 for entities that made or accepted those payments. The cash payment limit would not apply to private transactions such as the sale of a private car to another person. And the legislation was drafted by the Treasury's Black Economy Task Force that found large cash payments could be anonymous, and untraceable, and gave businesses an unfair advantage while allowing them to underreport income. Okay, let's look at that here. This is in the media that they've claimed. Okay, this is now part of history. So what I did a presentation, and in that presentation it was 5 lessons I learned from the cash ban. And here's the PowerPoint, and we'll jump here. So the first lesson was to do with the fact that hearsay and town hall meetings is the justification for this. This is what the Black Economy Task Force did. You know, it's ludicrous. It is ludicrous. When you come from a world where, you're used to academic rigor, you're used to there being some actual basis for arguments and positions, apparently not in Parliament, apparently not in government. So this is their task force roadshow, and this is the dates that they did. So they did Perth, Sydney, Bathurst, Mildura, Hobart, Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, and Gold Coast. Is Canberra there? Where's Sydney? Oh, Sydney's there. Yeah, you can't forget Sydney. Canberra isn't there. Well, of course, you don't need to ask Canberrians. They're all civil servants, so they're going to love this. It's more work for them. So, the National Roadshow, the chair of the task force began on 30th of May. So, it was open to all members of the public and the local business community. Of these events provided the opportunity for individuals and businesses directly to communicate with the chair. Over 300 people attended the events. 300 people in all of these events, not each individual events, all of them together. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9. What's 300 divided by 9? About 30, 35, we'll say, generous. Roughly, maybe 40, 50 tops. Some of the regions were a bit lower. How many people attended the Senate hearings, the inquiries? How many people made submissions critical of this? A lot. Many more did. How many people actually knew that this thing was going on? That's the other thing. They just quietly slipped this stuff through and you don't realize it. I think the CEC discovered it and they started getting attention about it. Then it grew from there. That's one advantage with social media and the fact that, you know, any bald guy with a camera can start rambling on YouTube because at least more of us can discover these things that's just being put through because we're all busy. We're not all politicians and civil servants that, you know, only do 4-hour days. So, I mean, that was the first thing. That was my first takeaway. The second one was that it's failed before. Oh, and this guy, Mark, Zinska, from representing the United Church of Australia. You got to watch the footage of his, let's just say, his arguments for it, and how he doesn't refer to nations. He refers to, you know, different. What was the term he used? Municipalities? No. I can't remember it now. I'll remember it later. But anyway, it's failed again and again and again. France. You know, 3,000 euros for residents, 15,000 for non-residents. You know, they tried it there. Hungary, no consumer limit, 1.5 million. You know, Portugal, cash payment limits of up to 1,000 euros. And it hasn't worked in any of these countries. It has not worked. Slovakia has it. Czech Republic has it. Spain has it. Bulgaria has it, similar to Australia. Belgium, 3,000 euros. Greece, 1,500. And Italy, 1,000 euros. Hasn't had it. Oh, my third takeaway. This is the one that really I found quite disheartening. This is the empty chamber, I called it. This is when you had, you know, people making good speeches. We watched them on the channel here. You know, Kata, he gave a great speech. Some interesting stories. I think admitting to some dodgy accounting back in the day on the farm. You know, Wilkie as well. You know, and Sharky too. You know, they gave very good speeches. And this was the chamber. This was the chamber that they gave their speeches to. There's meant to be debate about these things. So it wasn't the speeches that motivated them to stop this. No, it wasn't. They didn't care. No one was there to hear. It was for us. It was for the cameras to at least show that they were partaking. But it was empty. It was completely empty. You know, then they all, you know, there you go. Again, no one. There's my head cut out there in it. And that you know, this is where you can see where, you know, where the politicians are sitting and who they are. You know, empty. Guys, none of them were there. Oh, and then they all trotted back in. I guess the feed bag had ended. Or maybe drinks at the local pub. So then, oh, you know, Sukkah blaming the bikies. You know, Sukkah blames the bikies for it as a way to address crime and the fact that they're the ones doing all these dodgy deals and all this stuff. And finally, advanced IMF theory. This is something that hasn't disappeared. The fact that this legislation has been removed, because a lot of people were concerned that implementing this cash transaction ban would lock people into the banking system. And that means you would be subject to the advanced theories that are coming out of the IMF, or, you know, negative interest rates or dual currency systems. But even if you didn't ban cash, which they haven't, we're still susceptible to this now anyway. Added to the fact that we're living in a world where businesses seem to be able to refuse to accept cash at will now because of, you know, germs. There you go. We're all become hypochondriacs. And this is a blog I encourage you all to read. Cashing in, how to make negative interest rates work. This is talking about how to make it work. You know, 3 to 6%. That's the room you need to cut it. We're nowhere near that right now. I mean, looking at the cash rate that we have now, this seems funny because this presentation was from February. You know, we're at 0% now. It just shows you how little room we had to move. So those were my takeaways from it. Oh, and what was my bonus one? Oh, political. I was encouraged, and I am encouraged. This has shown that people have become politically activated by this. A lot of people, this has probably been the first time they've actually engaged politically. The first time. You know, Treasury received 4,000 submissions. Think back, only 300 people across the whole country went to the road show. And they probably put on drinks here. People took the effort to make submissions. And for many people, it was their first political act. And this is why I'm surprised. I'm not surprised at the outcome of the election we have here in Queensland. Some people are concerned, oh, what's going on, dodgy dealings. Well, no, my neighbour, her first political act was to call up the office of the Premier and thank her for keeping her safe. And when I'm seeing people activated like that, who aren't as politically engaged, then I know that, okay, there must be a lot of people there that think the same way. So they're my 5 lessons for the cash ban. I think there's some that are still quite relevant. I think it's good that people have been politically activated and hopefully encouraged by this apparent success. But there's still some things to worry about, particularly the fact that there was an empty chamber that they were talking to. Let's jump back to the article here, because we've seen, the task force, because this gave businesses an unfair advantage. That's only hearsay. It was based off those 300 people that rocked up there. That's the evidence, guys. That is all they needed. All they needed to justify putting a law in place that would take away one of your freedoms. And considering how authoritarian our government and our states are embracing it so quickly, we need to be concerned with all of this. We need to advocate for smaller government at every stage. Every dollar they spend is a dollar stolen out of someone's hands through duress. Every right they give us is a liberty they take away. So, it was designed to crack down on crime syndicates, the bikies, which use large sums of cash to avoid the attention of authorities. Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce, a vocal opponent of the bill, said people did not want governments to be in every corner of their lives. And the idea they could be told how much cash they could use for business transactions was obsessive and Orwellian. It pushes buttons amongst your true believers, and you don't want to push. On the other side of the political fence, the freedom of the individual, liberty, and the meaning of liberty to hold cash, he said. We understand criminals use cash, but we can't start organizing our life around the actions of criminals. Criminals use fast cars, we're going to ban them. Assistant Treasurer Michael Sucker's spokesman said the bill will be prioritised in the context of the government's broader legislative agenda. Well, it's kind of pointless now, because businesses are just doing it for them. They're just refusing to accept cash. How many businesses have you gone into on a day-to-day basis that won't take it? So the Rona's done it for them. Opposition Assistant Treasury spokesman Stephen Jones noted the decline in the use of cash had only accelerated during the pandemic, but warned that there was still significant affection for hard currency amongst the elderly and some multicultural communities. Yeah, because people don't trust banks. The Senate's Economic Legislation Committee earlier this year requested the government make a number of changes to the bill before trying to pass it through Parliament. These included reviewing the penalties for one-off breaches, which were less likely to be for money laundering and tax evasion purposes, to ensure they were not overly harsh. Yeah, that was kind of it was disappointing that the Senate's Economic Legislation Committee pretty much ignored all of the public's concerns. They dismissed so many of us as just nutters. The committee's coalition and Labour senators also wanted the government to assess the impact of the bill on migrant communities, in particular in relation to funerals, to determine if there were potential negative impacts. While the major parties said the legislation should be passed if its committee recommendations were adopted, Labour Shadow Cabinet never finalised a position on the legislation, and the government has let the bill slide. So there we have it, everyone. Looks like the $10,000 cash ban has just been forgotten about for now. But there are some things I want you all to remember. Just remember this image of the empty house. Remember that. And the fact that it only took 300 people turning up to these type of things so a bunch of weasels can make arguments to take away your liberties. Get politically active, people. We need to shift the Overton window to a more sensible position. You've got a whole generation pivoting really hard to authoritarianism and socialism. And they've got no idea what they're pushing for. So be encouraged, get politically active, and let's make sure things like this don't happen again. We'll have to see. Anyway, guys, Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Do you think they'll sneak it through again? Or do you think it's kind of pointless now because businesses are just refusing to take your cash? As always, if you're a fan of the channel, you can support us by just commenting, interacting, and sharing the content. If you want to support us financially, you can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. Use our affiliate links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from Teespring or the HeiseSays blog. You can use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. I will see you all in the next episode.